Hi, folks. Welcome to the ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2026 show. In today's episode, we again break down three very fascinating contests from yesterday, right? Again, we saw a proper display of dominance, intensity, resilience, tactical brilliance, call it what you may, across conditions itself. First up, we start off with Ireland's commanding win over Oman itself. We analyze how Lorcan Tucker just went all guns blazing, a very composed innings and a decisive middle overs partnership that really turned the tide for Ireland. We then move on to Eden Gardens, where England, overcame early setbacks against Scotland and still, managed to put off a win. Tom Banton, finally coming to the party, calmly navigating the chase. And finally, we talk about the high-scoring clash, right, between New Zealand and South Africa. Although a lot of us did expect some more fireworks from the match, I think it still delivered whatever it had to. Folks in the live chat joining us, please do share in your thoughts as we discuss each of these matches. But Neha, let's start our conversation with match 22, Ireland versus Oman itself, right? Again, just let's get your first thoughts. A 96-run win. Ireland puts 235 on the board, right? Again, fair to say this was probably Ireland's most complete T20 performance of the tournament so far.
Yes, I somewhat agree because we no one was expecting them to score that, sort of a total where you are like 230 plus is huge. And in a World Cup, and that too when you're like just Oman, so half of their pressure was like after their batting got completed that okay, now we have to chase 200 plus. And also Ireland have like shown that resilience and that dedication till the last ball that okay, and in every particular match of theirs in this tournament, whether they won or lost. So I think that I've observed in this particular tournament and their side that they are not like they are not giving up, and they are trying their best. And yesterday it was just commendable from their batting order and their bowling as well, I would say, because they did pretty well. Plus, I think the toss thing also went in their favor, is what I feel. They lost the toss, but I think ultimately the decision that Oman took, it favored them. So, yes.
Yeah, because I almost want to get to the toss itself right now. Oman chose to field first in Colombo. Again, do you really think that the surface itself sort of actually favored batting, more than expected as the game progressed too?
I feel Oman won the toss, so they should have, taken the decision to bat first. But because on that particular surface, the pitch or the surface gets favorable to the batters at the initial stage, and then during the latter phase it gives a bit of help to the bowlers, and there's nothing for the batters that much. So I have no idea like what was their thought process behind choosing to bowl first and then asking Ireland to come and bat, because it clearly went in their favor. I mean, of course, give credits to their batters as well, not just the pitch. But I think if they would have chosen to bat first, it would have been easier for them to, try to take advantage of those conditions and, take their time and, pace up as they move on gradually during those middle overs and then finish it off. But I don't think so that decision turned out that pretty well for the Oman side.
Yeah, in hindsight, they'd probably not be entirely happy with that decision. But at least when the match started out itself, right, you could see how Ireland was in some sort of trouble. They lost 3 wickets inside the power play itself. Now, again, if you were to contextualize Lorcan Tucker's knock itself, right, the composure he displayed in rebuilding the innings under pressure, man was batting on an entirely different surface yesterday, no?
That's like absolutely true. I mean, when you know that, okay, you lost your first three batters at a very low score, so it automatically becomes your responsibility that you have to lead from the front. And he actually did that because 94 not out, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, 94 not out, and the way he was timing the ball, the way he analyzed the entire situation or whatever the circumstances, whatever the pitch has to offer, I think it was like pretty adorable to the eyes when you watch a player bat like that. That okay, he's scoring runs in every particular corner of the ground. So that is something that other teams would have been looking up to. That okay, because when you know that a player in that is in that sort of form, it gets pretty amazing for their own team and their morale as well.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that because Lorcan Tucker again skipper leading from the front, they're missing Paul Sterling and his services, but to be able to come in and produce the impact he did, 51 balls, scoring that 94, remaining unbeaten. And here's where we can probably take a moment to talk about the partnerships he struck too, right, in the process, with Gareth Delney being the most notable one. Again, you could see, right, that partnership itself like completely shifted the momentum. Again, if you were to just look at what made this partnership so effective against Oman and their middle overs bowling itself, like how do you look at it?
When they lost those three wickets, I think it looked a bit shaky for their like entire batting lineup and their situation. That okay, because it was just like in 12 overs they were like 101 for four, and then they build up from there after losing the first three wickets. So I think that's what understanding the situation and taking the time and not panicking, because usually what players do that if they lose two three early wickets they start to panic and tackle the situation in a way that okay, we'll have to be aggressive or we'll have to play defensive, and it never turns out well for either of the situation. So they were pretty balanced is what I would say, because they knew when to attack, when to defend, when to play safe, and what bowler they should strike on. So I think that was like a great communication between the two as well. That's what we clearly saw yesterday, because the other team was also like continuously changing their fielding placements according to what area they should target, uh, both of them. But still, I think the composure and the patience in both the batters' attitude and like how they tackled it, it was like pretty great.
Yeah, agree with you on that because even George Dockrell, right, coming in and producing those late order, fireworks, 9 ball 35, ensured that Ireland got to a competitive 235. Syed going on to point out that Ireland really batted well to get into that sort of a total. Oman lost the match there only once, like once Ireland scored that 235, they were pretty much out batted, so to say, in that situation. Again, not a lot of positives when you look at Oman's bowling effort itself, but Shakil Ahmed, right, emerging as the pick of the bowlers with 3 wickets there. And you also, I think, had Shah Faisal and Amir Kaleem with a wicket each. So if you just had to probably cast your attention to Oman's bowling side of things, like your observations again there.
I think other than Shakil, most of the bowlers had like they were pretty expensive, because we know that okay, at a particular moment Ireland's situation was like quite terrible, if I should say, but they still managed to move from that situation. If I'll just have to look at the stats, take a quick look. They were like 64 for 4 and it was 7.3 overs. If the bowling would have been more, strategic and more aggressive and attacking from both the ends, it would have been better for them, because then that creates pressure on the batters. When they are unable to take those singles and doubles, and you are trying to save those boundaries. But other than Shakil, I think most of the bowlers were so expensive that it gave Ireland the chance to release that pressure that Oman was successful to create in the initial stages, because they went from 64 for 4 to 165 for 5, and it was 16.5 over. They still had 3 overs remaining. So the edge that you got during that power play or during those first 7 8 overs, you lost it during those middle overs. And again, other than Shakil, most of the bowlers were trying to play safe, because once the batters are have started striking and attacking from both the ends, it gets a very confusing sort of situation for the bowlers, that okay, should we now try and try to defend ourselves so that they don't score those many runs and they don't strike against us. But again, they lost their edge during those middle overs, I would say, during that 8 to 14 overs.
Yeah, that's true. And again, just looking at Oman right now, the task was cut out for them, chasing that massive 236. They had a brisk power play, right? Again, Amir Kaleem playing that sort of a knock. But again, 63 for 2. So that sort of just briefly put Ireland under pressure despite the huge target they had. Like, how do you look at the start that Oman had there?
Uh, Oman, I don't know. I think when you know that, okay, you have conceded those many runs and then you have to chase that huge of a total, but still, their opening batter, their opening batter did pretty well. They gave the team that start that they wanted, and we all know that okay, the power play and the initial overs are very, very important and crucial, especially when you are chasing 200 plus total. So I think that opener Kaleem did a pretty well job because he scored 50 in just what 29 balls. But again, when you know that your opener has given you that great of a start, it becomes the job of the coming batters that you have to build on it. You have to take your time. Then you have to rotate the strike so that it doesn't create pressure on your own team and the coming batters. But again, they lost those quick two wickets. The next two wickets fell for just seven and then one. So again, the moment they lost the momentum over there, they got like a good start initially, but then again, losing those two quick wickets, I think that's what just shifted their momentum completely towards the other team.
Yeah, because they were obviously finding themselves in that situation. But you would still see, right, Amir Kaleem at the age of 44, still playing like a very young man. 29 balls, me, he ended up getting those 50 runs. Then Hamad Mirza as well, right? 46 of 37. Now, again, once the wickets, sort of fell in clusters for Oman, like obviously a scoreboard pressure is like a big thing. You still have the likes of Josh Little and the Irish attack, right, who really took control. Again, was this for you more a case of like the scoreboard pressure or a very good tactical bowling masterclass from Ireland that just ended up working out well for them?
I would say Ireland did pretty well with their bowling strategies because Oman again, they chose to bowl, and we know that okay, not 80-90%, but at some level, the bowlers will have an advantage if they'll bowl afterwards. And Oman like clearly failed to just analyze the situation. So I would say the pitch also favored them. And Joshua Little, I we all know that he has played IPL as well, and he plays a lot of other tournaments as well. So he knows like how to tackle what situation because you get you can adapt accordingly. So he was pretty well, but again, I think it was more with the batters because they let Ireland get that momentum that they managed to get on their side. Because other than their opening batter and other than Mirza, I don't think anyone just managed to even score those 20-30 runs because we all know those small contributions goes a long way in a T20 tournament. And if other batters could have contributed 20-30 more runs each, it would have made a huge difference. But again, credit goes to Little as well to be that have an attacking mindset and bowling stump to stump and not giving much room to the batters to strike against him. So that also created pressure on the batters.
Yeah, and completely agree with Syed here that Oman just gave up their entire thing once Ireland scored that 235. We saw glimpses of some fight, coming in from Hamad Mirza, and I think we spoke about Amir Kaleem as well, but it was always going to be difficult. They ended up folding for 139. And due credit to the Irish bowling attack, like a lot of valid points you bring in with Josh Little and how miserly he was in his spell, right? 4 overs, just giving away 16 runs, taking three crucial wickets. Matthew Humphreys at the other end, taking those two wickets, and Barry McCarthy as well. Again, I think it's fair to say it was a very comprehensive win for Ireland, courtesy their batting and bowling department doing really well. But Neha, let's talk about the other match under focus, which was England versus Scotland, right? As much as we would love to see these two opponents take on each other more often in bilateral cricket, considering their geographical proximity and how, the fact that they can just play a lot more cricket. We only get to see them in ICC events. And this one didn't disappoint too, right? Again, let's get your first thoughts on this match. England chased down that 153 with relative control, despite, a few wobbles here and there. Again, for you, was it a case of, England just being more composed in the middle overs, or Scotland just missing out on some key moments that eventually probably costed them?
I would say I didn't expect this match to be like this neck to neck and England taking it to the last over. But at a particular moment, and even I would say like during those middle overs, it felt like Ireland could win. Sorry, yeah. But I don't know. England has looked a bit shaky in this entire tournament, and like their opening batters are just playing more defensive, I would say, and that's what gave Scotland that chance to bounce back during those initial overs, and it looked like even though the target wasn't that huge, and it could have been easily scored till 15, 16 overs, but again, I think England really has some issues with when it comes to their batting lineup, especially in this tournament, because even we saw in the previous matches that they have struggled a bit, and it was like quite a surprise for them. And even yesterday, again, I think Scotland would have won if things would have went a bit in their favor, or the strategizing or the planning and the execution part went well for them.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of learnings and takeaways in that regard. But let's again, chronologically look at this match itself. Now, England won the toss. They chose to field first, right, at Eden Gardens. Again, did you somewhere think the surface itself, the evening conditions, sort of justified their decision to bowl first? Especially, there was some grip, right, for spinners coming in later on. So, like, how would you assess that decision at large?
I think in Eden Gardens, it's like more about what usually teams or captains choose to do. And I think they went with their that particular instinct that okay, it would be better for them to take that decision first. Now, again, the decision would have went in their way, but I don't think so. The conditions would have affected that much because we have seen that the new factor it is there, but then if you're there's always something for your bowlers. Even if you are, defending your total and whatever it is, there's always something for the bowlers at the Eden Gardens. So I think it was more about England's top order failure and Ireland's, getting them those chances and those not being able to target those weaknesses. So I think the toss was like 50-50% for both the sides.
Yeah, I think in fairness, you can look at it that way. And even just talking about Scotland and the kind of start they slipped to 42 for 3 earlier. Now, again, how important was Michael Jones, right? The aggressive start that he played. Again, it sort of prevented a complete collapse. So, again, like your thoughts on his knock there?
Um, I think they had things under control when they were batting, but in the latter overs they lost the momentum. But again, I think Jones being the opening pair, and I think the opening batter, he he did his part quite well, to be very honest, because he scored those quick runs, 33 in 20 balls, and I think that's what you need, at least a small contribution, because he didn't take that much time and he gave that quick start that gives you the rhythm and that gives the coming batters that base or the route that okay, we have to build on this now. So I think he was good, and it would have been better for Scotland if he continued to build a long innings, because then that you have your opening batter who's playing since the very first ball, and you have that rhythm. So you can one batter can be aggressive, then the other batter can be a pillar for him. So that always works well when you know that your opening batter is batting till that long. So I think credit goes to England as well that they got his wicket because he was looking in great form, and if he kept going, then the situations might be different because England had to, we saw them struggling a bit to chase that total, and it wasn't that huge. So I think he played his part pretty well.
Yeah, because Sam Curran, came to the attack, got his wicket, and that's why you had the likes of Richie Berrington, again, captain leading from the front, 49 of 32. You had Tom Bruce as well, right? That partnership ensuring that uh, Scotland had the potential to build to a very competitive total. Again, when you look back at their partnership, did you have any observations and takeaways?
Ah, yes, I think when they lost their opening pairs, I think it's always comes to the third, fourth, fifth batters who's coming next. And when your captain is leading from the front and taking this initiative that okay, I'll start attacking, and that's what is always the cherry on top for any particular team, that that okay, you have this particular play and your captain who is in great form, then it creates pressure on the other team as well, because during those middle overs it gets quite crucial to even if you've lost 2 3 wickets, it's fine. It's T20. So people, any particular team loses those wickets. But again, during those middle overs, building that partnership and scoring what his strike rate was even 153. So I think 49 and 32 balls is quite impressive. If, that too in a situation where that you've lost quite a few of those wickets. So I think that was amazing, and that partnership looked like well communicated, because at times what happens, both the batters start attacking or either they start to play defensive and try to save their wicket, but they both looked pretty much in sync and in rhythm, that okay, it was clear in their mind that okay, we have to take the team to a decent total, and we have to give something to our bowlers to defend, because when you take this strategy of start attacking and in those situations you lose your wicket, and then you have nothing to give to your bowlers, and when you will be like 50 for 4 wickets, 5 wickets down, then you have lost half the battle. So I think they took their time, they were communicating like throughout, like what to do and like what situation to tackle and like where to be defensive. So I think it was pretty much smart on their part.
Yeah, very smart and calculative partnership there. And I agree with Syed that, Scotland, if they did end up scoring more than, say, 170, 180, that would have really tested England's batting. But again, right, England always has someone or the other just come to the party and take those wickets. Adil Rashid, right, once again, his 3 wickets quite literally broke the back of that middle order itself. Now, again, how decisive was that spell, stopping England from pushing beyond that 165? And massive credit to the man for just going about his craft so beautifully.
Absolutely. I mean, he is always that the ace that your captain turn towards when the situations get tricky. So I think he always plays his part pretty well, having that perfect line and length, and attacking on at the exact weaknesses of the opponent and the batter. So his economy was also pretty decent, if I should say. It was like 9, pretty decent, and taking those crucial wickets is always gives you that edge over the opponent. And even I think every particular bowler from England's side, they got a wicket. Someone got 3, someone got 2, and every particular bowler of theirs paid give their contribution pretty well. So I think it was at least a relief it would be for the England side, because their batting though looks like it looks like they have some work to do on it. Yeah, very shaky. So, but their bowling looks quite good, I should say, especially Adil Rashid, because he always had his spin trap and trying to get the batters to take those risks, and then he caught them. So I think yes, pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, eventually, Scotland did end up with 152 on the board. Jofra Archer amongst the wickets, 2 for 24. You had Adil Rashid, as you rightly said, 3 for 36. Liam Dawson, right, coming to the party, 2 for 34. Jamie Horton and Sam Curran each taking a wicket. That ensured somehow some of all parts did end up being something here, and they restricted Scotland to that very chaseable total, so to say. But again, talking about chaseable totals and England, right? They lost Phil Salt and Butler. Both have been in this sort of an indifferent form quite cheaply, right? Again, like how crucial do you think was that Jacob Bethel and Tom Banton partnership in sort of resetting the chase and even controlling the tempo, right? Like massive credit on how both of them went about plying their trade.
Your voice is a bit shaky for some reason.
Yeah, yeah. So I was just asking about Phil Salt and Joss Butler itself, the kind of partnership that they set. Did you think like that sort of was game defining in a way?
I think England has always looked a bit, that underconfident, or I should say, or maybe we can call it defensive, if we are talking about that. But if Phil Salt and Josh Butler would have given that perfect start to England, it would have been great because that when that's 155 is not that huge of a total, and if you get a good start, then that sets the base, or that surface level is like pretty well for your own team to build up. But losing those quick wickets, especially Phil Salt, we all know, like Phil Salt and even Josh Butler, we all are pretty much aware of their capabilities and how much attacking they can be. And if those two players kept going, then I think England had a chance to win that match by 8 wickets or 9 wickets, because they can wrap it up pretty quickly when they get into their attacking mode. So I think that's something that they have to, find a solution in the next match, because things don't look pretty good for England's top order, I should say.
Yeah, things looking quite tricky in that regard. But Neha, again, let's talk about Tom Banton itself, right? His unbeaten knocker, 63, and the partnerships he struck on the way with Sam Curran, later with Will Jacks as well. It pretty much sealed the deal, right? Again, was this an example of England's batting depth sort of just coming to the forefront, calmly absorbing pressure rather than dominating from the get go itself?
Absolutely. I mean, Banton was like, he understood like what was his responsibility or what was his role to play after losing those 2 wickets. And 63 not out and 41 fours and three sixes. It shows me that his entire knock was pretty much balanced. He wasn't playing it safe. Neither he was getting into the panicky situation of just attacking every other ball and aiming for 6 or 4 on every particular delivery. So I think that was something that gave the other batters that confidence as well, that okay, we can build a partnership from here. And talking about Jacob Bethel, 32 and 28, that was also pretty decent, I would say, keeping in mind that he stepped in such a situation where they desperately needed a partnership. So I think that's also something that kept their hopes alive, because if England would have lost just 1 or 2 more wickets, then it would have been drifted away in Scotland's favor. But I think good job from both of them to take their time, understand the situation, rotate the strike continuously so that it doesn't create pressure on you. So I think that's also something.
Yeah, valid point. Then with Syed going on to point out, that Tom Banton and Sam Curran's partnership was really crucial, right, for England to reach that total of 153. Even Will Jacks coming in the end. A lot of people have been circumspect of him coming so late in that batting order, but to be able to deliver and get the job done in 18.2 overs is still something, they'll take a lot of heart from. Just taking a moment to talk about Scotland's bowling effort itself, right? I mean, it doesn't really look that bad on paper, right? Except Mark Watt, who was just getting smashed all around the park. You still had Brandon McMullen, Brad Curry, Brad Wheel, Michael Leask, and even Oliver Davidson for that matter. All of them taking a solitary wicket each, and their economy just a little, a shade above 7 itself. Again, like Scotland will take a lot of learnings and takeaways from that bowling side of things as well.
For sure. I mean, their bowling was decent, because their economy wasn't that much, terrible. So I think that was good. So in that particular, looking at that particular stats of theirs, I think if they had 20, 30 more runs, it would have been like a bit different for the bowlers even, because 155 is defendable, but of course it's England, so they'll always find a way. They always do. But their bowling was pretty decent, I would say. Economy was like okay, well balanced. They took wickets, pushed England to the deep end, but then again, their lower order is what saved England, to be very honest. Will Jacks and Sam Curran doing their job as usual. Sam Curran like contributed with both bat and ball. But Scotland would have been like it was a good game for them. Even though they lost the match, and it wasn't that huge of a margin. They like pushed England towards the 18 19th over. So I think it's pretty decent for their learning and the growth part as well, because when you know that okay, you can take the game to that level and that deep is what gives you confidence, of course, no doubt. And I think it will be a great learning graph for them.
Yeah, I mean, all's well that ends well. England did end up winning by 5 wickets with 10 balls to spare, and much needed impetus to their campaign as well. Although scrappy, but they'd probably still have some areas they'd want to iron out, as they look ahead in this tournament. But let's talk about match 24, right? New Zealand versus South Africa. I think their rivalry in rugby is something that's spoken about a lot more than cricket itself. But this match too, right, did deliver in phases, so to say. Let's get your first thoughts. A high scoring contest, right, in Ahmedabad. Fair to say that. Again, just wasn't more about South Africa's batting dominance that we got to see in that run chase, or New Zealand just missing control, right, at key phases, which sort of really, really costed them.
Yes, I think New Zealand didn't look that much aggressive, if I should say, yesterday especially. The fielding was pretty well, but I feel like their bowling and the batting could have been better. And firstly, like South Africa winning the toss and deciding to bowl first is like I think it went in their favor, because Narendra Modi Stadium favors the ones who bat second, and the ones who have to chase, because like majority of the matches that people won, and it has a huge factor, the toss part. So I think a good call and smart call from South Africa, asking them to bat first. But again, I think they got a bit defensive rather than trying to take those more risks, because you always have to take those risks when you have to give a big total to the other team. But I think they have some issues to sort out when it comes to New Zealand batting part as well.
Yeah, I think New Zealand's batting has looked quite circumspect again in that regard because, again, a big talking point was that of Finn Allen, right? The explosive start he gave. The power play, again, 58 for 3, right? They were at that stage. Again, but you somewhere think that those early wickets itself cancelled out what could have been a bigger momentum phase for them?
Ah, yes, I do. I mean, Finn Allen, he made 31 in 17, and other than him, New Zealand side, they lost 2, 3 wickets early on, and the batters didn't even score that much. Skipper went for 13. Then Rachin Ravindra, I was expecting something from him, but again, he got out quite early in 13 in 8 balls. Then Glenn Phillips for just one. And when you that actually puts pressure on the existing batter who's like batting since the very first ball, even if he's scoring or timing the ball pretty well. And then when you know that you don't have any other batter at the other end who can support you and help you build that partnership and take that innings that long, I think that's what costed them, to be very honest, because losing those 3 4 wickets and not being able to create that impact or that pressure at the opponent gives their bowlers their advantage to that okay, now we can attack even more. So it always gets a defensive sort of game for the batters who are came at number 2, number 3, whatever.
And considering how, those flurry of wickets early on would just invariably end up putting a lot of pressure on that lower middle order, you still had the likes of Mark Chapman and Darren Mitchell, right, really stand out. Mark Chapman, 26 ball, 48, and Darren Mitchell too, right, 24 ball, 32. Again, how decisive was that partnership, and ultimately just sort of ensured New Zealand had a competitive rather than a winning total there?
Ah, yes. I mean, that partnership between those two players, it was is what kept New Zealand alive in the game, because I think the middle order failed to do so. But at a point, they were 64 and they lost 4 wickets, and it was just like 6.4 over. And then going ahead from that situation and building a partnership, and then being in a situation where you're 138 for 5, it gives you that edge that okay, we can take this ahead, we can build a long partnership. And I think if Chapman and Daryl Mitchell would have been there, then New Zealand would have lost 70% of the match over there, because they wouldn't been able to build 170 plus or anywhere near that, because we all know that it's a chaseable total, that too at that stadium. So I think Daryl Mitchell, I mean, again, he has been amazing in the last few weeks, if you will say. He had been, taking on the bowlers and every other particular opponent. So I think he's been pretty well, and especially when you're coming down the order and playing 52 in 24 with a strike rate of what 133. That shows like the level of confidence and your strategizing part, and like how much your morale has been boosted with your own performance. So I think that's also something that was like pretty crucial, and what gave New Zealand that edge during those last overs, especially I would say, because losing the wickets early on, then during the middle overs, even if your momentum has been shifted, but it's a very crucial part to shift that momentum in your favor and finishing it off well. So I think that uh, New Zealand did pretty well yesterday.
Yeah, agreed. And with Jimmy Neesham, again, a 15 ball 23 ensured that New Zealand just had something respectable on the board, right? 175. But against this competitive South African side, probably would never be enough. And again, landing New Zealand in trouble for the better part of the game was Marco Jansen himself, right? Picked up 4 for 40, was looking really good, and was able to, sort of get so much from that surface and actually challenge these New Zealand batters. Lungi Ngidi taking a wicket. You had Keshav Maharaj and Corbin Bosch too, right, amongst the wickets. So yeah, just talk us through your thoughts on like Marco Jansen, the way he went about his spell, and even the other bowlers sort of stepping up around him.
Yes, Marco Jansen, I mean, of course, he has been pretty well looking in form and taking on the batters. And even though, like, if we'll see his economy yesterday, it was like 10 and he gave 40 runs. But I think that's also something that shows, how great of a bowler he is, because even though you know that the batters have striked on you, but you end up taking 4 wickets is what, gives that edge to you and your team over the other opponents. So I think Marco Jansen has been pretty much well, like bowling perfectly calculative line and length, and not giving those chances, or bowling those loose balls, and keeping to going ahead with your mistakes, anything. So I think he adapts pretty well in any particular situation. He knows like how to target, and even when he, and even at times, like deliberately he tried and bowl those slower deliveries to get the batter to do some mistake or anything. So I think that was also pretty impressive. And other bowlers, I mean, of course, they contributed well, whether it is Keshav Maharaj or Bosch. But again, I think Kagiso Rabada is also someone that I was like looking that okay, he might be contributing or might be taking some wickets. It didn't happen, unfortunately. But I think his economy was also pretty decent, even if he didn't take any wickets. So that's also like South Africa has a great bowling lineup, and with Marco Jansen leading their bowling, it gets even better.
Yeah, South Africa would be mighty pleased, with that sort of a bowling effort. Because when we talk about the batting side of things, right, I think Aiden Markram and Quinton de Kock, right, they quite literally flipped the pressure, right. They had a very ultra aggressive start that effectively decided the chase early on. I mean, 83 for one at the end of power play. Neha, match was done and dusted there, and Aiden Markram once again was looking very promising for a massive, massive individual total there.
Definitely. I mean, the opening, when you know that your opening pair has scored those many runs, and especially your captain Aiden Markram, I think it gets like it's like more like a relief for the coming batters, that okay, 70% of your job is done over there, and the target wasn't that huge, and your captain himself scored 86, and you have a total of just 175. So I think it was done and dusted, like you said, with Quinton de Kock contributing with his part of like 20 and 14 balls. He is looking in great touch. I mean, if luck would have favored him more, then it would have kept him going as well. But that partnership was quite crucial, I would say. And like they were like 62 for 1 in 4.4 overs is like always something that any team would have wanted. I mean, your power play isn't even over, and you are that you scored 60 plus runs, and it's always good to have a good start, because even if things turn during those middle overs and the game gets a bit slower, you still made the most out of your power play. So it still gives you that time, and that relief that okay, we can take our time, we can build long innings, we can take it through slow and steady. So I think Aiden Markram, like, huge credit goes to him for playing the way he did.
Yeah, because Aiden Markram, once again, just being in the red hot form that he's in, 44 balls, scoring those crucial 86 runs, doing the bulk of the weightlifting for South Africa there, which meant, the rest of the batters could quite literally take their time. Ryan Trickleton scoring a 21, you had Devol Brevis as well with the 21, and David Miller, vintage stuff coming in and just finishing the game off in style. This again ensured that South Africa had the total chase down in 17.1 overs with what a good 17 balls to spare, right? Which again is great stuff, not just for the net run rate, but also for their morale and confidence. But one last thing, Neha, before we sort of wrap up our discussion, is about just New Zealand and their bowling itself, right? Not a lot to talk home about. Most of the bowlers going in excess of an economy of 7 there. But you still had Lockie Ferguson pick that solitary wicket. So was the case with Jimmy Neesham and Rachin Ravindra as well. But somewhere, have you felt that New Zealand's bowling has been, something concerning, and they might want to really look back at some strategies they want to adopt in this department?
Definitely. I mean, when neither of your bowler is able to get that crucial wicket in this crucial situation, the situation always gets tricky. I mean, of course, they did get those crucial wickets. I mean, Jimmy Neesham got Ryan Rickleton. He was looking in good touch, 21-11 balls. Then Devol Brevis, Rachin Ravindra surprisingly took his wicket. He was looking in great touch. But again, when the time they got those wickets, I think till that time South Africa did their part already. The job was done, and they gave their wicket away. I mean, they lost their wicket because of their own mistake and not because of the strategic planning or implementation or something. Because New Zealand bowlers or their bowling never looked like they had some strategy, or even if they had, they failed to implement it. And especially again, the huge credit will go to Aiden Markram, because he gave that base and he set the tone for the entire batting lineup, and he did like 70% of the job was done when Aiden Markram scored those many runs. And I think other than that, all of the bowlers had a terrible, terrible economy, if I should say. Like Henry got like 9.5 something, and Ferguson with 10, Jacob Duffy with 16. Even like 50, giving 50 runs in 3 overs is huge, huge. I mean, the entire momentum gets shifted towards the other opposition. And then even Santner had an economy of 8. Other than Jimmy Neesham, I think most of the bowlers, fail to, get that grip over those conditions. And I think if even if they were, just like didn't give those many runs, every other particular bowler of New Zealand, I think it would have been like a better situation for New Zealand side, because they were too expensive, and you can't afford to be that expensive and giving those many runs, especially when you know that you are defending. Because even if they lost 5 6 wickets, doesn't matter, and they are continuously striking on you, and you are giving away those easy runs, those singles and doubles, you will never be able to put that pressure on those batters, even if they just stepped in. And for a batter like David Miller, he knows how to do his job. And when David Miller is on strike, I think every particular team gets nervy and nervous that okay, the momentum or that thing can change at any particular moment. And New Zealand just completely, completely failed to do that yesterday with their bowling department.
Yeah, and South Africa sees the momentum quite literally, and the result is for all of us to see. Syed again going on to point here that Markram batted really well, right? For his 44 ball 86, the opening partnership with Peacock, and then the partnerships he struck in with Ryan Rickleton, that really did dent New Zealand chances and meant a loss for them. But Neha, again, just one last thing. I know I keep saying one last thing, but today, right, we're looking at three blockbuster matches. One of them, most notably, being the India-Pakistan match itself. So yeah, again, do you have any expectations? Are you looking forward to it? And probably a quick prediction too before we wrap up.
Um, it's of course India Pakistan is always going to be an exciting match, no matter if it's Asia Cup or T20 World Cup. But I think this time Pakistan looks a little better, keeping in mind like how they performed in Asia Cup. It was terrible, but still they have five spinners with like Usman Tariq. No, the entire social media is buzzing with Usman Tariq's bowling action, and so I'm like quite literally looking forward to what he is going to do. And then they have Abrar, then they have Nawaz, Taim Ayub as well. So I think they have a huge lineup of just spinners. So that will be a great contest, Pakistan spinners versus Indian batters. But again, Abhishek Sharma is back, fortunately, good signs for Team India. And I feel like he'll take on those bowlers and he'll give India that perfect start, is what I feel. And I hope that he does that because that's what India will require. And again, the ground in Sri Lanka where Team India has to bat, it's not like quite small, it's huge. So we have to keep taking those singles and doubles so that the pressure is, at the opponent. Toss, of course, will be a huge part. And looking at the previous match and like so far, I think India have lost the tosses. So I hope India wins the toss. I really am looking forward to it. But I think India will win, of course, no doubts.
Yeah, Neha giving her a very bold prediction there. And I think a lot of India fans, I think, on the stream right now would be very happy with that prediction. At least on paper, they look like the team that is going to go for the win. But Pakistan is one opposition you wouldn't want to take lightly. But I'm excited to see what eventually does end up happening, right? I know a lot of the attention is on the India-Pakistan match, but right now, as we speak, Nepal is playing against West Indies. Nepal looking in a very difficult position at 33 for 4. We have Namibia also lock horns with USA a little later in the day. So yeah, an action-packed day, so to say. But that's all for now from us, folks. Thank you so much for joining in, Neha. Thank you so much for being your amazing self. It was really nice interacting with you about day 8 of this World Cup itself. But let's see what tomorrow has in store for us. And for folks who are joining in later, catching the stream, please make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, do the usual stuff. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow at the same time. Cheers. Thank you so much.